Welcome to Between the Sheets, the non-judgmental podcast where we're going to cover various sexual health and wellness topics. I'm your host, Dr. Stephanie Zwonitzer. I'm a urology and sexual health nurse practitioner, and I love helping my patients and listeners discover and develop their most satisfying sexual experiences. Between the Sheets is here to normalize the conversations about sexual health and cover everything from basic anatomy to the most taboo topics and everything in between. Real talk, real pleasure, one episode at a time. So come on, let's get between the sheets. This episode is sponsored by Boston Scientific and its educational website on erectile dysfunction, edcure.com. One study estimated that more than 50% of men over the age of 40 have some degree of erectile dysfunction, which can be frustrating and confusing. Go to edcure.com to find information on erectile dysfunction and treatment options, including long-term treatment options offered by Boston Scientific. Boston Scientific does not endorse any statements or opinions expressed during this episode. Hey guys, welcome back to Between the Sheets. We're going to have a fun conversation today here. We are with Playground Intimate Health and Wellness. We have Catherine Magee here, and we're going to talk about the different products they offer and ways to spice up your sex life. What is better than that? So welcome, Catherine. I'm excited to have you here.
Excited to be here.
Excellent. So tell me how you started this line of products and kind of where your background comes from.
Yeah, so I come from the skincare and cosmetics industry. I spent way too many years there. Probably most notably was at Bare Minerals and then also Rodan & Fields. And I've worked at tons with Sephora and Ulta. And, what I always said is I love to create really great products that make women feel confident and also beautiful. And as we all started talking about with our friends, maybe a little like with a little giggle here and there many years ago, looked at this category and realized, wow, none of these products are created to make women feel confident and to make women feel beautiful. And in fact, in so many cases, they do the opposite. And, it just became such a large passion for me to take my background and go into a space and rethink it from the ingredients that comes in our bottles to the packaging to the conversations we wanted to have with women and really say let's replace shame with science and let's really dive into these conversations because they're so relatable and so important.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I love when you brought up
Was
the
that for
ingredient
me?
part of it, because especially in women's health and in our vaginal area, our vulva, the whole private area, we have to be really careful about what we use in those areas to stay healthy and prevent infection. So how did you kind of tackle that? Because certainly our skin, we want to treat well, but doesn't have quite the same dynamic as our vaginal area.
Yes. And that was one of the things that truly blew me away because we as women care so much about our skin. We care what we put on our skin and on our body. We think about it from an anti-aging perspective and a hydration perspective. And yet, if you think about all these products, not only are they ingredients that you wouldn't put in your most intimate area of your body, some of these products have ingredients you wouldn't want to put in the intimate area of your body, but none of them are really even designed for women, right? Like when we think about our first line of products, and we've evolved since then, is vaginal lubricants. They are made from the perspective of men for pleasure, right? But 80% of the reason women buy these products, if not more, is for comfort.
Yeah.
So we really think about it from the perspective of women. We believe anything you put in your body has to be very clean and healthy. And then now we've even beyond that. And like, how do we help protect your health and promote better vaginal health?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge proponent of it. I always suggest my patients find with ingredients they can pronounce and read, very few ingredients, those kinds of things. There's nothing worse than using a lube that gets sticky and leaves a residue.
Mhm,
And like my own body
mhm,
stuff doesn't do that.
mhm,
Why would I want to use a product that gives me these issues? I
mhm,
want a product that is smooth and long lasting and doesn't take
mhm.
away from the pleasure of sex, but adds to it.
Right. And what we learned that made us even more passionate about this category is that it's still very much owned by these very big old legacy brands. Like KY Jelly's been around over 100 years. They haven't updated much of their
Hmm.
formulation. I sort of think about it like going and buying oil at Costco, right? You don't know what it's been cut with. It's mass ingredients you can buy for pennies. Or, I joke Trojan, named after warriors who rape and pillage. So
Right.
there hasn't been a lot of innovation in that category. And so when we started Playground, we had to go find a chemist and formulate it ourselves. I come from skincare where you can go find a manufacturer around any corner. You don't hire a chemist. And we had to do that 2 years before we even launched because we were so focused on getting the right ingredients in our product
Hmm.
that protected pH, that promoted health. We use a citric acid that's the exact same pH as the woman's vaginal microbiome, because then it helps prevent disruption of your
Hmm.
pH during intercourse. And then the thing I always love to talk about is like ask people, like, most people don't know what the most important ingredient in a lubricant is, and that is water,
Hmm.
because water holds bacteria. And so if 90% of a water-based lubricant is water and they have not purified that water and manufactured it properly, then yes, it's going to have bacteria in it. So we really came at it from the perspective of vaginal health first.
Yeah, I love that. And you have a water-based lube. What else do you have in the lube section? And we can get to the other areas that you guys cover as well.
Correct. Yeah. And really the way I think about it is, and I think I think this is the right way to think about it, but why do women use lubricant? Not men, women. And it's typically because we have hormones and our hormones changes every month and we go through spells of dryness or we have postpartum or we're in perimenopause and menopause. So very naturally, our vaginal microbiome changes. We go through dry spells. We really need to protect those vaginal tissues, and we also need lubrication. So to us, all of our products deliver that. We think of that first before we even use a word like lubricant. Ours is both a moisturizer and a lubricant.
Hmm.
So we have a water-based lubricant and we also have an oil-based lubricant called Mood Maker, which is my favorite. You can't use oil with condoms, but
Hmm.
hey, not if you're married or in a relationship or in menopause, you don't need to either. We
Yeah.
also have a body oil that's a very clean, healthy body oil that kind of inspires play and
Hmm.
intimacy. And then we have products that are just hydrators and moisturizers that help to protect the vaginal tissue and hydrate the vaginal tissue
Hmm.
to prevent longer term dryness
Hmm.
and symptoms, vaginal menopause symptoms and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the whole body one. You can give massages. You can kind of have more of the sensual side of things, especially when you just maybe erection isn't working that night, or, you're on your cycle and you're someone who doesn't want to have
Hmm.
period sex,
Yeah.
something like that, that you can still have all of those sensations and the really good feelings that can come from things without actually having to do penetration and things like that.
Well, it definitely is a focus on intimacy, right?
Hmm.
I've been married for a very long time. And so it's a very intimate act when you are maybe holding someone's hand or using a lotion or using our intimacy oil. Which is very imperative for women.
Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of am in, not also personally, but professionally, I treat a lot of women in the perimenopause and menopause phase. I don't see a lot of postpartum or pregnant women, lactating women, things like that, but it's also an issue at that point. But for me and for my clients that I see a lot, it is needing that ongoing hydration. And like you said, it's not just using it in the moment of intimacy, but it's almost like your exercise routine. Yeah, we're not stretching the vagina here, but we're moisturizing it. You need a constant routine to keep your vagina nice and healthy. One of those things that we can prescribe for you is the vaginal estrogen, but we only use that twice a week, maybe 3 times a week if you're going through
Right.
a big shift. And so you need something for those in between days to really maximize that effort. So I love that you guys have these products. Talk to me more about really the moisturizing products that you can kind of use on
Hmm.
an ongoing basis.
Hmm. And I love that you kind of are pulling this all together because when we think about our skincare, we never dream about only using one product. We don't
Mhm.
just, oh, hey, use a wash and never use a moisturizer. And that's the same, that's the way women should think about it, particularly when they're in perimenopause and menopause.
Mhm.
Estrogen is a great to give out you all the benefits for hormones and help prevent certain of these symptoms getting worse. But just like your skin, your vaginal tissue needs to stay hydrated. Absolutely. And it's imperative because for your face, your skin looks dry. But for
Mhm.
your vaginal tissue, when they start to atrophy,
Mhm.
they thin, they
Yep.
break. Friction damages them. You become more susceptible. Your pH is changing. It just becomes like, a tornado of effects.
Mhm.
So the moisturizer you is the we call it miracle melts really is about hydrating your vaginal tissue so that it does not get overly dry and create these
Mhm.
issues and create discomfort. So, we actually tell people who use an estrogen patch, for example, just use a miracle melts the same day you use your estrogen patch.
Mhm.
Um, and we also talk to a lot of doctors and when you are experiencing perimenopause or really, really vaginal dryness for the first time, you should be using a lubricant. And that's
Mhm.
why we find it so important to create those experiences with Mood Maker, which is in a glass bottle, or with Love Sesh or Date Night to make it an enjoyable experiences that enhances the mood, but it also is really important to your health vaginal health and sexual wellness in perimenopause and beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. I have so many women who come in for the first time having razor blade pain with
Right,
intercourse, don't even
right,
want to have intercourse anymore. And they've
right.
never had this before. They don't understand. And they haven't put together that it's their perimenopause, it's the lack of estrogen. Haven't put it together yet because we don't talk about hormones very much. And for the longest time, hormones were a horrible thing that we should never
Mhm.
touch. So wrong. There's this era of women who are still so resistant to it. And I think
Right.
it's so important to be able to kind of come together. And for the women who
Yeah.
do have estrogen positive breast cancer, generally we can still use the vaginal estrogen. We can't always use systemic, but we can try some things. Sometimes, though, when they're in active treatment, we can't use hormones, period.
Right.
And so we
Right.
really need to rely on these good quality moisturizing products to really help these ladies. And
Mhm.
the other thing that's really interesting is the urinary symptoms. Okay, so I'm a urologist, but the urinary symptoms coming through in perimenopause, the thinning of this vaginal
Mhm.
wall is right up against your bladder and your urethra. So the
Mhm.
thinner that gets, the more easily irritated you are. So again, I have women
Mhm.
coming in for the first time with frequency and urgency, leaking,
Mhm.
recurrent UTIs. They've never
Yeah.
had a UTI maybe since they were in college, and all of a sudden in their late 40s, early 50s, they're getting 3, 4 times a year. And
Right.
and they don't associate it with the vaginal health because we've never been taught that
Never
they're
been taught.
connected.
Yeah. And also, that's why I talk about the face a lot because we're more educated about the face. So,
Mhm.
topical solutions work, right? If you meet a woman who's 55 who's never used a moisturizer in her life, and you've met a woman who has, you're going to see the difference of your skin. And
Mhm.
so, that's the way we should start thinking about your vaginal microbiome. Like today, you're right. Generationally, we have been taught to not talk about it and not take care of it. I'm glad
Mhm.
that this new generation truly thinks of it as self-care, but protecting moisturizing we have hyaluronic acid and vitamin E, and these help to both thicken your vaginal tissue and
Mm-hmm.
protect it. And like lubricants, I don't like that word because it does sound so scary for people, but it helps. It works.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I was going to say. We, on average, live 30 years past menopause today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But what our mothers and their mothers before us didn't want to tell us is that vaginal menopause is the end of sex. All right.
Mm.
Well, listen, the 50-year-old woman is not the 50-year-old woman anymore. Right.
Yep.
I call it the J-Lo-ification. Okay. We all want to
Yeah.
look better. We all want to help. This is about longevity.
Right.
Okay. And living healthier longer. And part of that is physical fitness and sexual fitness. So
Mm-hmm.
it really is about health and longevity. And if we can talk about that and then say, here are the tools to that, maybe we can sort of change the narrative around, these products.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think it's so important. And it really is very life changing for women. And I love what you said, that we're not the Golden Girls era. We are, very different. And it's very important for us to really take care of it. I wish there was just a one
Mhm,
size fits all. You can do one thing on all of your
mhm.
skin and everything would be beautiful and perfect. But that's just not reality.
And also, we give women options, right? Like the one size fits all rule, really, what does that say? It says like you don't get to choose and have options and be able to use estrogen or not use estrogen. I mean, that's why we think about clean and healthy ingredients and we are non hormonal because we want every woman to at least have these options that they can use depending on their own frequency. Kind
Hmm.
of going back to this, like, talk about stigmatized conversation about the end of your sex life. It's like, what are the hallmarks of youth? It is physical fitness and physical activity. And so
Hmm.
when those things end, aging really starts to get. And
Hmm.
so those are the things that and there are women there that want to continue intimacy with their partner. I'm not going to say it's easy. Um, right? But they want to, and this helps them. And I do think it is life-changing.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so talk to me about some of the other products that you guys have for women and kind of where else you're leading and going to.
So we are about to launch some new products. I can't quite talk about them yet, but we purposely did launch with our hydrating hyaluronic acid moisturizer and our different lubricants. We have a lubricant that is called Free Love that we've had it
Oh,
clinically tested to show that it helps to also prevent UTIs and bacterial vaginosis for younger women. And then we have Love Sesh, which is formulated to last longer. Um,
okay.
and go like a little goes a long way. But we believe, really for us, use the word intimate wellness
Hmm.
because we want wellness to us is never getting to pain. It's never getting to
Yes.
discomfort. It's never getting to like what you said, that razor blade
Hmm.
pain.
Yeah.
And so, and I think like I love having conversations with you because I'm very passionate about talking about it from this perspective
Hmm.
because we do need to reframe the way doctors and friends and all of us talk about it. And there are other intimate wellness things that we can do for vaginal health. So
Hmm.
we are sexual wellness because intimacy, and we're not afraid about intimacy or afraid to help people have healthy sex lives. But we also, vaginal health is important. Kind of what I say this too is like, if you don't have great vaginal health, you can't have great sexual wellness.
Correct.
So, how do we really give you products that help to protect and promote better vaginal health?
Hmm.
Because then you can lean into better sexual wellness.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's such a great way to say it too. I'm such a proponent of intimate wellness, sexual wellness as well. And the reason for this whole podcast is because it's not talked about enough. There
Hmm.
aren't great resources to get quality education like what we're talking about
Hmm.
today. So people do, if they do think they need a lube, they just go
Yeah.
and buy the crappy KY jelly or whatever is
Yeah.
on sale. And I hate that. And I try and talk to my patients about it, both my male and female patients. Like, look,
Hmm.
if your wife is complaining of dryness, you feel like she's dry, offer a lube.
Hmm.
Go get a good
Yeah.
quality one because it's really important. And, you know, I think there's a lot that goes to the better sex we have, the more sex we want. And
Right.
so if we can make it comfortable, if we can make it
Hmm.
good, then I'm going to want to have it again. If it's
Correct.
dry and it hurts and it feels like razor blades,
Nobody
there
wants
is no,
that.
nobody wants that.
Nobody
And
wants
sure as
that.
hell not initiating.
And I think, one of the challenges is, and this is one of the things that when we started the company, we did an interview, we interviewed 20
Mhm,
surveys and personal interviews. And one of the most shocking things, maybe not surprising, is they felt like something was wrong with them. Like it
mhm.
was their problem. So they thought that they were alone in it. Well, listen, more women have vaginal dryness and eat breakfast in the morning, and 100% of women will go through perimenopause and menopause. It is literally the one thing that we all have
Yep.
in common. And so, yeah, I would tell my business partners, I'm so glad we don't sell lipstick anymore because the world doesn't need more lipstick, but the
Right.
world needs more confident and empowered conversations around something that is absolutely critical to our health as we age and to our relationship and to our comfort.
Mhm.
Because listen, if a man was having razor blade pains when having sex, Lord knows we would all know about it.
They come immediately. They wake up that
Immediately,
morning
world would
with this.
stop.
Yes.
It
It's
would be
so
bigger.
funny.
It would be bigger than AI. Okay. It would be bigger than
Yes.
AI.
Yes, I cannot tell you how many times my add-on patient for the day is a man who woke up with penis pain or testicle pain. Half the time it's gone by the time he even comes in for his appointment the same day, but the whole world stops the moment there's a little bit of pain. And women, whether we've been taught this way or it's just our nature because we take care of everybody else, but we'll suffer for a long time before we actually do something about it. And I really want women to start saying, the moment I
Hmm.
don't feel like I used to, the moment I notice I'm not having as much lubrication, get the lube,
Hmm.
get the hydrating, do it.
I'm like, one of the things that I am so excited about is that the words perimenopause and menopause are now in our lexicon because if that is what's going to get us to talk, to be more
Mhm.
comfortable and talk about this, that's very exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think it's so important. And the ladies who are currently in 60s and 70s, their moms didn't talk about any of it. They didn't prepare them. We're lucky that we are educated on this, but my mom didn't talk to me about it either.
Right.
Maybe a little bit here and there, but not consistently. I remember her more telling me about, you know, how your periods are going to get heavier or shorter or, you know, shorter in between the periods, things like that with perimenopause. But I don't really remember us ever talking about sexual side of things. Not that we ever talked about that at all, but especially when it comes to perimenopause and menopause. That's one of the things
Right.
that I want to change for these younger generations coming up is that it's just normal for us to talk about this. It is normal for these things to happen to your body. It is not normal to live with them. There are things that we can do. So as soon as you start noticing these changes, come get
Right.
help because we can, like you said earlier, prevention is the key. And so as soon as you're starting to notice these, or maybe you haven't even noticed it, but you're in your late 30s and early 40s, just start using this stuff because it takes a lot less time for the hydration stuff to start working, for the estrogen to start working, than if you wait until you're fully into menopause. And now we got to play catch up and we've got to
Mhm.
reverse damage that's already been done.
Totally agree with everything that you say. And I think that's why we think the the packaging and the product, we take such intentional thought. Our
Hmm.
mood maker product is an oil-based product because it is beautiful, it is silky, it is smooth, it is self-care. And then if you can start there, and that is what creates a beautiful experience, that's going to help it. And what we've also found is what's really changed is, yeah, it's no longer the me generation with men, it's the
Hmm.
we generation. And so I say two things too. It's like you'll be surprised if you bring like a mood maker, is why we call it that way, into the bedroom because your partner will probably be very happy. Or what I
Hmm.
tell people is go to our internet, or any brand out there, by the way, not just our brand that has beautiful product, and just Instagram it to your partner. It's a
Hmm.
really easy way to send a direct message and break the ice without
Yeah.
feeling like this big important conversation needs to happen.
Yes, absolutely. So one of the other things that I saw on your page is the arouse drink. Is
Oh,
it
we
is it
did
a
a
drink?
so
Yeah.
we love to do collaborations with other
Okay.
brands to do exactly what we're saying. Let's join forces. We've done collaborations with a brand called Love Wellness. We've done collaborations with all kinds of other female founded brands. And we did
Okay.
one with a drink company that has some really interesting arousal, arousal
Okay.
named drinks, but with that have like adaptogens and these type of ingredients that get you in the mood.
That is so fun. I love that.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
do you were saying about you were saying about your packaging too. It's very pretty. It doesn't scream, "I'm a lubricant." So if it's on your nightstand and the kids walk in, they don't necessarily go, "Oh, mom's at that age
exactly.
where she needs a lube," or "Gross, mom and dad have sex." You know?
You're right.
But it's beautiful and it's well done. I agree with that. There's nothing more that I like as a woman to use a pretty product. Yes, I want it to do what it's supposed to. Yes, I want it to feel good and not be full of crummy ingredients, but I want it to be pretty too.
And I love what you said, right? We call it your nightstand's best friend, but we don't want it to look like a product that you love, right?
Mhm.
And nobody needs to know if that's a skincare product or a beauty product, but really just a product that you want to see on your nightstand.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so awesome. I do really like that you have the different options for the lubricants. How do you talk to women about choosing whether they're going to use a water-based and oil-based? Are there times that they use one versus the other and
Hmm.
have both on their nightstand?
That's a great question because we can tell you that. But what I've also noticed is that some people just have a preference. Some people have
Mhm.
a preference for oil and some people have a preference for water based. The water based lubricant tends to have a lot of slip. So does the oil, but it is more luxury, much like a
Okay.
high end oil that you would put on your face. But but if you're wearing a condom, you need to use water-based lubricant. So that's why
Mhm.
that's important. And then as you know, especially for younger people, condoms and sperm are alkaline. And so
Mhm.
immediately that's changing the pH of your vagina, which is acidic. And
Mhm.
so one of the things we did with our is the type of ingredients, we measure the osmolality. It's really important for us to create that experience that you want, protect your tissue, and also protect your pH.
Mhm. Yeah, it's so important. And I love that you bring up the condom part because that is so important. Even after menopause, if you are single and dating and having sex with multiple partners, you still need to use them because it is STI protection. And we forget about that once we aren't
Hmm.
worried about pregnancy anymore, but that is very important. I love that. Do you see a silicone lubricant on the horizon for your company, or is that not something you guys want to get into?
That is a great question. And I have only a half great answer. The reason we do not have a silicone is because we cannot prove without a shadow of a doubt that those ingredients are good for the vagina. So we have just chosen not to make one.
Yeah.
Though our water based lubricant is plant based, we
Hmm.
actually know all of our raw material suppliers. That makes us very
Okay.
rare.
Yeah.
And we know every ingredient in that formula. It's been extra sensitivity tested and it's FDA approved. We probably overdid our homework compared to anybody else in there. And then our intimacy oil is the same thing. It has beautiful ingredients in it, reishi mushrooms, all of these things. But silicone. So what we did instead is we used ingredients in our Love Such water-based lubricant to have a silicone light. We use a bamboo extract that
Mhm.
has a silicone like slip so that it
Okay.
lasts a long time and it has the same light level of slip as silicone.
Yeah. That's great. I think that's really important. There's a lot of different reasons why people like one or the other, but I love that you're really worried about the vaginal health, and that's the priority. Because for
Right.
me, that's the priority as well.
It is the priority. And listen, if you're not sensitive, maybe it's less important. But I really love that you asked that because I wish more doctors, like, more doctors, you are obviously
Mhm.
on the cusp of being very not, on the edge here, but would understand the difference between a silicone, a water-based, and an oil-based. And
Yeah.
then also, what other intimate care and wellness products can you use?
hmm Yeah, and I think, I have women who come in with the recurrent UTIs, recurrent BV, things like that, and they're using Summer's Eve vaginal wash, they're using Vagisil vaginal wash, they're using all these things that are I said, "Well, that's your problem right there. It's completely throwing
Mm,
off your pH. I would love
right,
to pull those from the shelf at the store
right.
because I think they are absolutely horrible for you, and the reason they continue to make money as a company is because you feel like you have to keep using it to prevent smelling and things like that when the
Mhm.
product is what's causing that."
Correct, and to your point, you said it, the vagina is the most sensitive area in the body, more so than even the mouth, and
Mhm.
we don't really think about it that way, and for very old brands, and listen, they were there for the empowered brand of the face, they're using ingredients that Sephora won't even let in their store.
Wow, yeah. That's that's incredible.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. It's interesting that you have that background because I don't have any skincare background, and so it's really interesting to me to hear that side of things and how it complements with vaginal health and the things that you can do for your vaginal health.
Yes, and that's why we love working with doctors because doctors are the experts on women's health, and so we find it our job and our mission to formulate based on that knowledge.
Mhm. Yeah. No, I think that's amazing. And when you are, I'm assuming that you guys go to different events and you're talking to women and things like that, right? And so when you're talking to these women about it, what kind of regimen are you setting them on as far as using the moisturizer, the lube, things like that? Kind of what are you telling them to do on a daily basis?
I'd love to have a quiz on our website so that people could answer questions and then we could direct them more into how many times a week or month you should use Miracle Melts or how frequently you should use a
Mhm.
lubricant. But, the truth is, if you're having any discomfort or you are not comfortable while having intercourse, you should be using a lubricant.
Mhm.
There is also a lot of proof that it, also helps you have more pleasure in the bedroom. And then we actually, what's interesting is we have we have a lot of customers who are in cancer, for example.
Mhm.
And so they're experiencing vaginal dryness or early onset menopause. And so they have discovered, and I've talked to women who are 30 that just
Mhm.
fought breast cancer and now they want to have a baby. So when you talk
Yeah.
about this being a health and wellness issue and that there are people out there shaming situations like that,
Mhm.
like if you don't feel empowered to step up, that story should help you step up. I think honestly, we could all do ourselves a favor, strip away that shame and just start
Mhm.
using it all the time. And then you'll be able to decide if it's better for you and how it's helping you. And then
Yeah.
certainly if you have odor, itching, discomfort, which you would know better than me could be signs of bacterial vaginosis.
Mhm.
These are everyday health and wellness products that you should just be incorporating to prevent them. When I was in college, I didn't even know what that word bacterial vaginosis was, right?
Right. Right.
I didn't even know. So I love that you said talk to your daughters about it. We have a lot of women that have discovered Playground and have been so happy to have this conversation and learn about it that they are opening up and telling their
Mhm.
daughters about it.
Yeah, it really is important. And I think the more that we have these conversations and put this information out in these quality ways, like we're doing today, I think that's what breaks down these barriers. And, like you said earlier, as far as sending something to your partner on Instagram or whatever, send this podcast to somebody, send this podcast to your girlfriend group in your group chat or whatever it might be, because someone there might still feel that shame and not be ready to open. And the more that we allow these conversations to take place and to show other people that these conversations are taking place, the more normal it will become. And then hopefully women won't be nervous to ask for help
Right.
or to say something's changing. Or, I have
Right.
patients who come in and they've had an odor for months because they're too embarrassed to do anything about it, and the
Right.
only reason they came in now is because they feel they can smell it all the time,
Right.
and they're worried other people can smell it.
And thank you so much for your education too, because you would know more than me that the majority of all bacterial vaginosis is caused by sex, with your partner. And so
Yep.
it is not your fault. And if we're going to do one more skincare analogies, I would say there's not a woman today who doesn't have something wrong with their skin. Maybe it's a little dry, maybe it's a little oily, maybe it's a little acne. Okay. Every single one of us as women have some sort of, you know, issue or challenge at some point. It's very, very normal. And we should be sharing this knowledge with each other, knowing that every single one of our girlfriends experiences it as well. And then there's the whole perfect intimacy your entire life and relationship does not exist.
Correct.
But it can be a really big challenge for a couple. And so, again, let's talk about it. Let's celebrate it. I say we got to break the ice with each other before we can break the norms in the bedroom.
Yep, absolutely. I completely agree. Tell everybody how they can find your products and get in touch with you and your brand.
Our website is helloplayground.com. We're very active on Instagram and now TikTok. So find us at hello.playground. DM us anytime. DM hello.playground. I will answer you. We really just love to have this conversation and for every woman to be part of the playground community.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. And everybody, we will include that in the show notes in case you're driving right now. You do not have to try and remember this or find it on your phone. We will put it in the show notes. You can come back to it later and safely do that. And I just want to remind everybody, if you are having sexual intimacy issues, hormone issues, whether it's with yourself, your partner, or your male partner, don't forget to check out reviveish.com so that you can work with me at the Sexual Health Clinic. And everybody have a great week. Thank you so much for being here, Catherine. I really appreciate that and all of your knowledge and products.
Love it. Love it. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, everybody, go have some fun between the sheets. Thank you for joining us and exploring sexual health topics here on Between the Sheets. New episodes are available every Wednesday. Please subscribe and rate our podcast so we can reach more listeners. And don't forget to tell your friends, partners, and anyone who will listen about Between the Sheets. Send any comments, questions, or stories to podcastbetweenthe.sheets@gmail.com. It's all one word, podcastbetweenthe.sheets@gmail.com. Thanks for listening and go have some fun between the sheets.